Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Justin Gerena. Justin, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I don't think I've had any other guests yet from Long Island. So from the real part of New York. I interviewed two people from upstate New York who claim that's the real New York. So having you here, I feel emotionally safe in this space. So I'm ready to hustle. So really thank you for being here.
Absolutely. And my business partner is a Queens guy. So we're even more deeply connected.
You know, that's true. I was forced to live in Queens by my wife, who's from LA. I know that sounds weird, but my wife is from LA. The way to best figure out how we ended up in Queens is that she likes grass and I like pigeons. And the only place that you can get grass and pigeons are in Queens, New York. You heard it here first.
Although I will say this, my business partner who moved from Queens, now in Long Island, got rid of all of his grass. All the grass and all the trees, just pavers. That's the real Queens way to live.
But he has no pigeons, though.
No pigeons.
There you go. So let's jump right in. Take us back. What do we need to? So your story is amazing. Your bio, everyone should pause right now, read the bio. We don't do long bios to save you the trip. Hope you read it already. But Justin's success is something that's super inspirational. We met each other via a Facebook group, and I'm so glad that he's here. But just take us back. Tell us what we need to know about your upbringing that kind of led you to be the insane hustler developer that you are today.
So the one thing that I always think of that has driven me was, I'm going to reference my business partner right away. We were sitting in business law class, St. John's University, Queens.
Queens, New York.
And yeah, Jamaica, New York. And nothing like the real Jamaica. And we were kind of commiserating over the fact that if you want to have a career in business, if you want to have a career in marketing, which we were both marketing majors, you had to get a job in Manhattan. And you're a Manhattan boy. That doesn't seem like a big deal to you. But to us Long Islanders, it is a painful experience to get on a train and go into the city and spend an hour and a half in each direction every single day. And I got a little taste of that doing an internship. And I said, this is not the life I want to live. What did I do to myself by agreeing to be a marketing major in college? So we both kind of felt the exact same way. We were both slightly depressed at the look that our future had, which was spending a lot of time inside of a train every single day, which just kind of drains the life out of you. So we immediately got to thinking, well, how do we avoid this? There aren't really many marketing and business jobs on Long Island that would pay you nearly as well as if you worked in Manhattan. So what's the alternative? And we quickly discovered the alternative was to figure it out ourselves, do something ourselves. And I'm very grateful that I had that conversation and met him in that time in my life, because we were both safely able to avoid the corporate life and with a business degree.
But he was from Queens, so he was, he could really. You didn't want to go to Manhattan because you couldn't hack it. You were like concerned about the whole vibe and the people, and I get it. It's fine.
It's fine. That's the thing. I love Manhattan. I love it.
I get it. I'm just messing with you. But it's interesting you say that, because what do they say that necessity is the mother of all invention? I think that's right. I think that's the thing. And one of the reasons why I started this podcast, and one of the reasons why I love the conversations that we're having and the way that this has developed so far, and I hope that it continues to develop, is that a lot of times people get to those moments and they say, and how many people would have said, but that's just what you do.
Yeah.
This sucks. I hate going on the train.
Right.
If maybe one day I'll own my own business and be able to make my own hours or have an office somewhere closer to home. But today, And for the first 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it is, I need to play the part, do the thing, and that is going to Manhattan every day and not take that opportunity as the mother of all invention. So I think that's super interesting.
Well, here's the deal. There's different types of pain and suffering, right? There's the pain and suffering of having to travel in a tin can for 3 hours a day. And for him, yes, it was a little bit less, but he still had to get in the subway, and that's still a pain in the butt. But there's a different type of pain and suffering, and that is starting your own business when you don't know a darn thing about what you're doing. And that means that could have been a very prolonged period of not making any money. And that's a very good form of pain and suffering.
Well, I think that I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. But I'm just saying that and I'm pointing out that so many people would have not even taken that step to do that risk analysis of like,
Sure.
where am I? Where do I want to be? And how painful might it be to get there? A lot of people say, no, that's just it. That's
Right.
just it. You can't, and we're seeing it today. We're seeing all these young entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. Some people hate it, some people love it, literally out of their parents' basements. And I'm not, we don't need to get into the conversation about independence, but I'm just saying the way that people look at things and the way that people look at their hustle. And one thing that I hope we're learning is that if you have an idea, you should chase it. That doesn't mean you should do something stupid financially and put yourself in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. But it's like, how can we challenge the status quo in a way? So then you guys started a business out of Long Island.
Yes. Yes, we technically started it out of his parents' house in Queens. I remember actually the first phone number we ever used for our business was actually his mom's fax number, which was
New York, baby.
Didn't I kind of regret giving up that 718 number because those are kind of priceless right now. So we did that. Eventually, we shifted over a little bit east to the Nassau County, and we've been working without a full-time office ever since, because that was one of the things that we were always able to avoid doing, which I highly recommend.
What year was that?
2004.
So you founded a company and you were remote only.
Yes.
Since 2004.
Correct. Yeah. I think a lot of people think, oh, I've got to get an office and the staff comes in every day and this. And you incur so many expenses and so many headaches and so many distractions by getting into that type of investment and requirement that it takes away from where you could actually be investing your business's funds and resources. And just like we've always had this philosophy of operate with the minimum output as possible in terms of financial output.
What was that? What
Hmm.
created that? I'm just curious. Meaning, you obviously startups run lean, but for you, it was a lot of people would say that the reason to be remote is because they want to, better culture, it's better fit, it's more efficient in terms of time. It's interesting to hear of a business that started, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the remote first approach. And parenthetically, not because we have $0 and I'm working out of my partner's parents' basement, meaning it was even when we make the money and we get past the bootstrapping stage, I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
This is going to be our philosophy, and it's a financial decision as well. So how did you get to that?
Well, we started looking at office space, and we didn't do it too soon, right? We did it once we actually had the money for it. And we said, wow, if we didn't have this office space, if we chose not to allocate these funds to office space, what else could we use these funds for? And it was a revelation that we had of like, wow, we could increase our advertising budget over here by 100%. We can get into these marketing initiatives that we've been putting off because we claim we don't have the money. And it opened up this world of possibility for us. So that's what we did. We immediately banked every single dollar that we would have spent in rent And we said, let's see how else we can apply this to make this work for us, because we're not 100% confident that there'll be a huge ROI on the building, on the office space, on the square footage. But we're pretty sure we can get a pretty good ROI on these advertising and marketing initiatives. And we were 100% right.
So do you think that that's from the, I think it's fascinating that you challenge the status quo twice at the same time. I mean, your whole philosophy is like, we're gonna take standard operating procedures and turn them up on their head, right? We're not going to be in Manhattan. And then, okay, a lot of people would say, okay, we don't want to be in Manhattan because of the commute, whatever. Great, we'll get an office in Long Island or in Queens for a fraction of the cost. No, we're not going to do that. I know we're not going to do that. And what's interesting is you then parlay that into a career in helping people with marketing and that kind of development and maximizing their potential, which is also, I feel, and I would love to hear from you on this, turning everyone's general philosophy about themselves and their career and things like that up on its head.
Yeah.
Not to call you a contrarian or anything like that, but you know
No,
what I mean.
well, I kind of always had a problem with authority. And I don't know if it was like a healthy enough level where it has helped me succeed, or it has somehow been detrimental. But like, I had such a problem with authority that I went ahead and like, all right, so I worked in like the car radio business when I was in high school. So I sold car radio stuff and all the fun things, and my car was all hooked up and stuff like that. I was obsessed with that stuff. And then I was like, well, what are these other things you could do to your car? And at one point, I actually got a PA system for the car, and I had the wig-wag lights in front that had like the strobes and stuff like that.
God, you were the
And
worst to be next to at a red light.
right?
God, people like
Yeah,
that.
I know. And
This is why you
I'm
couldn't hack
not
it in Manhattan, by the way. This is why. This is why. Because you would not have made it 5 seconds on 2nd Avenue, where I'm from, on 86th Street. No way.
So I had this I got this stuff for the car, and I I had such a problem with authority that I'm like, I'm challenging authority to such a high degree. That stuff didn't last in my car more than a couple of days. I took it out. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. But the fact that I actually went and purchased it says something, I think, about me that I'm not too sure I'm proud of. But nonetheless, I've always had a mentality of like, don't tell me what I can do. Don't tell me I can't do that. You're not really in charge. You know, these rules, they weren't made for me. They were made for everyone else.
And look, you turn that into a career. You know, it's funny how like I have a close friend who is a very successful electrician who started his career doing sound system, much like you, sound system installations for his parents' friends when TVs and surround sound systems came out. And then he said to his parents, listen, this college thing is probably not for me. I'm good with my hands. I like this thing. Got into the low voltage business and now into the, you know, the regular, quote unquote, regular electric, this is low voltage. But it's like those opportunities that we can't squash from our personalities, I think are important. Meaning, you could have said, no, I have to go again. I have to stay in the box. This is what I got to do. This is it. Forget about where my tilt is, to be contrarian, right? To challenge the authority to do that. And instead you said, I'm not going to challenge authority, but I'm going to challenge the status quo and how a business should be run.
Yeah.
And look at what that's parlayed into.
Well, what's interesting is that like I still surround myself with that now, because the business that we're in, we're actually helping individuals start and run their own web design business. We're helping people challenge the idea that they need to be working for someone else. I just got off the phone yesterday with someone. We did a live demonstration with someone who has been selling websites for another company for at least, I think, 5 or 6 years. And she's telling about all the success that she had. And she's like, you know, I'm kind of wondering where all the rest of the money's going. I'm like, I get paid my commission on these sales, but like, where's the rest of it going? And she said to herself, I think I can do this for myself, but I'm not really sure that I can. So in the conversation, we had, I showed her around our platform and all this fun stuff. And then she revealed a statistic of how many sites she sold in 1 month for this other company. I was like, holy cow. I'm like, I'll hire you. I'll pay you more than what this person's paying you right now to sell sites for me. And then I said, wait a second, don't take that deal. Don't do that to yourself again, because that's probably what happened last time. You got picked up by somebody else, paid a little bit more, picked up by somebody else, paid a little bit more because you're good. They're paying you more because you're good. So stop making other people money. Make yourself the money. And at the end of the conversation, she goes, all right, let's do this. Let's get going.
So you think she's going to take
that's the kind of stuff.
How many people do you have those conversations with that don't take the leap, that don't believe in themselves, that don't hustle for themselves? And I think
countless.
the safe bet is hustling for someone else.
Countless, yes, yeah. You know what? I've been saying this to my wife since I met her, which is 13 years ago. I said, listen, you're too good at what you do. You got to do something for yourself. You have to do something for yourself. And just last year, she finally did. And she opened up her own business and she's killing it. And I believe everyone has at least one thing they're really good at, a skill set that they're really good at, something that comes easy to them much more than their peers. Okay? And I think you have to leverage that. And I think you have to create something out of it, because that has value. Every single skill has value, has a value in the marketplace that you just have to find a way to leverage. If you're the type of person who can speak really well in front of groups of people, leverage that in a way. You might be good at sales, you might be good at marketing, you might be good somewhere in the public speaking realm. Or in a podcast situation, if you're very good at details and scheduling, you might be very good in a role where you're functioning as an event planner or an administrative assistant and start an administrative assistant agency and train others how to do that. We all have something. And I think people need to realize that, identify it, and embrace it and scale it.
Have you seen a shift in that in the last 20 years? In the way that people are viewing it, the average young adult is viewing their ability to chase their dream and hustle for themselves.
I definitely think so, because we have been marketing to people in the franchise space for quite some time. And the franchise space, what I mean by that is people who are looking to start a franchise or buy into a franchise. And those types of people looked a certain way about 8 or 10 years ago, and now they look very different. And there's fewer of them. There's still just as many people looking to start their own business, but the people who are looking to start their own business are not looking at the franchises. They're looking to actually create something that's all their own. So I think that and look, COVID certainly helped this situation. COVID I think was the one good thing that came out of that, was that a lot of people decided to do something for themselves when their business was shut down or the employee relationship was shut down, and they were forced to figure stuff out on their own. And they did it successfully. And I think that has kind of created this wave that is still in a growth stage of people doing their own thing. The gig economy turned into, I think, the start your own business economy.
I want to move on to our next question, but I just want to close the loop here and ask briefly, do you believe that everyone can be an entrepreneur and work for themselves?
No, I don't. I think there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of people who aren't willing to do the work. Okay. We get a lot of people reach out to us, and we lovingly refer to them as the entrepreneurs or the dreamers, because they had like the idea of owning a business, but they just aren't ready to do the work that's going to get them there. So the short answer is no.
Yeah. It takes work. It's one of the things, from starting in a basement or in a living room, that definitely takes work.
But if it was easy, everyone would do it, right?
That's it. I'm sure there've been a lot of ups and downs. I'm sure that people called you nuts when you started or had these crazy ideas of challenging the status quo. What would you say take us to the most difficult moment or pivotal moment. Obviously, meeting your partner, your business partner, was probably a very pivotal moment. But what has been the most difficult moment in your journey, and take us through that, and how you pushed through that or hustled through that?
So the most difficult moment, I believe, was probably when we lost a very large client. I'll tell the story the best way I can succinctly. So we were working in this relationship with a carpet cleaning company that was sort of a franchise, but not. And uh, I immediately got bad vibes from the owner, but he was willing to pay. And I was looking past all the bad vibes and the things that felt like I was forcing a square peg into a round hole, as they say. But I looked past that because the money was good. And we completely targeted and turned our entire focus onto making this one lunatic happy. I didn't know he was a lunatic at the time. And we went so far as to hire someone specifically to serve him better because of the fact that he was constantly throwing these requests at us that made us feel like we were doing a bad job because we weren't able to decipher or parse them or whatever. But it actually wasn't that. So we hired this person. We reshaped our business in a sense to be able to help this one individual who was growing at a very fast pace. And then all of a sudden, he said, listen, next month I'm switching away from you guys.
Yikes.
And that was, it was infuriating. It was sad. It was frustrating. It made us question everything. And ultimately, I don't think there is such a thing as failure that doesn't teach you something. And if there is an event that happens in your life that you feel like is a failure and you don't learn something from it, that's purely on you. Because any type of failure that happens in your life, you have to learn from. You have to take something from that. And what we took from this is that, honestly, it was something we knew a long time ago, but we refused to listen to ourselves. And that is that you have to be willing to say no when you have an opportunity to do something that doesn't fit into the long-term vision of your company. We were swooned by this potential client. We were swooned by the money opportunity. You know, it was a path that was taking us in a totally different direction than where we thought we were heading, but we made excuses for it. And from that point forward, we have never agreed to stray from the path of going toward what we view as our future. And it has given us a level of laser focus that I don't think we would have had if we didn't have that experience. Because when something like that happens to you, when you really get hit hard, you don't forget that.
So how did you get through it? How did you hustle through it?
Well, it was a matter of, the sad part is that we had to let go of the person we had just hired. That was frustrating because she was really wonderful. We got through it by just licking our wounds and concentrating on the things that actually gave us fulfillment and that actually we just leaned into the things that were moving our business forward in the direction we wanted it to. So there was a 3-week period of pain and anger and feeling you can't trust anybody and disappointment, all those horrible things that we feel. And I wrote probably 15 emails to this guy, each one more angry than the next. And I didn't send any of them. I just needed to get it out.
I hope you still have
And that
them.
actually was very helpful.
Put some in the show notes. I'm just kidding. But it's amazing how. Well, let me ask this: would you change it?
No, I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened.
And nobody ever says that. I had a similar thing in our business where I was privileged to work with my father. He should rest in peace, and I'm very lucky to still work with my mother today. And they had philosophies of how our business was to be run, and there were some times when I just chased the dollar. And my father used to let me think. Yeah, I think he knew exactly how I was going to end up. But I think if you're going to believe in your mission and believe in what you're doing, if you don't have that moment that reverse validates, meaning when the sale works out and your theory, which is the wrong theory, is validated, like when the guy first starts paying you the money, right? That's actually a bad thing. But in the end, but in the long run, when it's invalidated, that forces you to focus on what is validated. And I think most people answer both those questions the same. They wouldn't change it, and they kind of knew it all along.
Yeah.
But you don't know it. You can't 100% be confident that you knew it all along until you confirm the negative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're right. And look, I'll add one more thing, which you can edit this out if you want to, but I have come to realize one thing that's going to sound bizarre to you, and we've picked up on it time and time again, is that if someone signs off in their emails and all of their phone calls with God bless, something's up. And here's my philosophy on it. You are making up for all the sins in your, like, I would have a conversation with the guy and he would curse and swear and yell and scream, what's the matter with all this stuff? And at the very end, Justin, have a great day. God bless. Like, what the and then every single email that was, written, in a rude, disrespectful way, ended the email. God bless.
If it's
And
okay
to
with
me,
you,
it feels like you're making up for something.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that in if it's okay with you.
That's fine.
And that's because it's interesting. My father used to say that the amount of times that someone says you can trust me correlates to just about how much you can't trust them. If someone opens the conversation, not like me saying to you, "Hey, can I confide in you?" and you say you can trust me, that's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
But if someone in the first time you meet them, or you're talking about a business partnership, or you meet them once and then you start talking about it, and every 5 minutes, like, "Yeah, you could trust me. You could trust me that I'm going to do this. You could trust me. You could trust me. You could trust me." Likely, you can't. His line was, "Put your hand on your wallet, make sure it's still in your pocket." And his joke was he took all the papers on his desk. We once had one of these things. He was telling me about it since I'm a kid. My brothers can tell you this line. And then I was literally sitting in his office, and as this person is saying, like, "You can trust me," 3 or 4 times, I watch him take the papers on his desk and turn them over upside down. And I said to him afterwards, like, "Oh my God, you actually lived that line. Like, you literally, you saw the guy as such a scam artist. Each time he said, 'You can trust me,' that you started immediately collecting anything that may have your name, your kid's name, anything to do with your business." But I think that's true. And I think that a lot of people mask those things. And I think that that's one of the great things of going through the trials and the tribulations and the hustle and the challenges and those times that aren't so great that we were just discussing, those difficult times, is that it really forces you to embrace who you are. And it really pulls the authenticity out of you. Because when you're down and you can't figure out how you're going to pay your bills and you have no money and all that, and times are getting tough and you are having that moment of doubt that maybe I shouldn't have started this business remote first, maybe I should have just taken that easy internship in Manhattan, the greatest city in the world, even though I couldn't hack it. You have to, those moments are the ones that force you to really get honest and deep and really look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And those are ultimately the ones that make us, right?
That's right. 100%.
God,
100%.
Gems, such gems. And I think that, and I'm assuming you've seen this play out in the people who you help mentor and develop and things like that are trying to develop their own businesses, that it's those moments that define people. And if there's one thing that's disappointing to me when I speak to younger people or people that are getting started or even older people that want to chase their dreams, it's that how many people, I saw this great image of the guy who's pushing the rock up the hill and he gives up right before you can't see the top. And he gives up like right before the top, 2 inches gone, like miles. And how many people don't embrace those moments and lose out on those opportunities, which is just, I find probably the saddest part of the whole story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have amazing conversation. We have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite all-time or current inspirational or motivational quote. and what it means to them. So, Justin, really thank you again for being here, and the floor is yours.
Just so I'm clear, because I wasn't fully understanding. Is it a quote that is it a belief or advice to other entrepreneurs, or is it
Your
an actual
favorite,
quote
whatever
that
your
I've
favorite
heard?
is, whatever your favorite is, we'll take it.
Give me
If
one
it's going to
second.
be
'Cause
a
I don't
quote from you that you're coming up with right now, we'll take
No,
that
it's
too.
not. I don't want to muff it up, because let me just locate it so I know I don't want to say it wrong.
You got it.
Hold on. All right. So this is relatively all right. I'm good. I'm going to leave you with this that I recently heard from a gentleman named Dan Martell. He was up on stage and we were sitting in at this software convention, and he said these words, and they've stuck with me, and I hope it sticks with you. At every new level, there's a new devil. And what it meant to me is that no matter how you progress forward in your life, every dragon you slay, every beast you conquer, every level that you progress up, there will be another major challenge that you have to face. The reason I'm sharing that is because I have so many personal experiences that align with this. You think you're in the clear by getting past a certain level, and you're up against something you did not see coming. That's a major challenge to you, and you're forced to figure it out. My wife worked for other people her entire life, and she was always frustrated by the way she got treated by her superiors. She started her own business and realized she no longer had anyone to report to, anyone to beat her up. And then she uncovered the new devil, which was the long hours, the inability to sleep because of everything that's running through your mind, the challenge that your clients give you directly, because sometimes it's harder to make your clients happy than your boss. So every new level is a new devil. Remember that, because as you progress through life, there's always going to be something else you've got to conquer. But as long as you come in prepared for it, you'll do just fine.
And you just got to keep hustling through it.
That's right.
Keep hustling every day. Justin, really thank you for being here. Thank you for the open and honest conversation. Thank you for the candor. And thank you for the inspiration.
My
This
pleasure.
has been another episode. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good, and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.